Hi, everyone. I think we're going live. I'm going to kind of straighten my camera out here just a wee bit. Hopefully, I'm a little more level. Hope everyone's doing good. I think I'll stay close till I see that there's some people in, and then we'll get started. I don't know if there's anyone there yet, but hopefully comments will start coming in soon, and I'll know when people are here. Oh, hello. Okay. We'll give everyone a few minutes to get in. And hopefully my mic is good and working. You guys can hear me well. Oh, there's some comments coming. Let's see. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Tori. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for joining me. I know it's early. It's earlier than normal. We're going to do this Gypsy Garden series early on Friday mornings. And the nice thing about this platform is we can record it and keep it. So, hey, Leslie. Hey, Samantha. It's good to see you guys. Sorry, my phone was ringing. Oh, it's good to see you all. Well, we're going to do some fun stuff today. So we're going to hop right in. So, last week I had the opportunity of introducing you to Gypsy Rose, and I still have some here. For those of you who maybe missed it, Gypsy Rose is our new exclusive. This is a Mayon rose, and it was bred for long stems, lots of sprays, vase life, and lots of flowers. So as you can see from my shirt, we're super excited about this rose. It's the perfect complement to any rose garden for your rose bouquets. So this summer, you guys are going to come along with me. Move my camera up a little bit here. You guys are going to come along with me as I plant a gypsy garden. And this gypsy garden is all about cut flowers. I want this garden to be useful, drought tolerant, low maintenance. Those are things that are really important to me. And so you're going to join me this summer, step by step, as I turn an area around my turret into a cutting garden, a gypsy cutting and gather garden. So today, we're going to start with what everyone should start with. There's nothing more important when you are planning a new garden bed than starting with a soil test. Whenever you spend time and money and energy on anything, you want to make sure you start off right? Because your roses and your gardens are only going to be as good as the soil that you put them in. So interesting story about here at my house. I'm in Utah, so we're high desert. We tend to be very alkaline here. We tend to have a lot of salts in our soils. But the area right around the turret where we're going to be planting this garden has been a huge struggle for me. It was planted in juniper for probably 50 years. And it's against a south-facing area, so it's hot. My house is made from a limestone, and so when it rains, some of that limestone gets washed into the soil. So I've had a really hard time. Normally, I'm really good at skipping the soil test a little bit and just knowing, okay, I can tell by the soil I need to do this, this, and this. But this is a really unique situation. And so I think it's so silly that I didn't start with the soil test, because I tell everyone, start with the soil test. So today, I'm going to teach you about things you can do at home to test your soil, see what it's lacking in. We're going to do 7 tests today. So, and I'm also going to be sending out a soil test to my local university, Utah State, which is my alma mater, and have them do a full panel. And we're going to compare the two. What does an at-home test tell you versus what something from an educational type of company is going to give you. So let's get started. Let's talk about the tools of doing a proper soil test, okay? So some things that you're going to need Like I said, we're going to do 7 different ones. I have my notes on my phone. So forgive me for needing to look at my notes a little bit. So we're going to do 7 tests. We're going to do the mason jar test. Mason jar test, I first learned how to do this in college. It's such a simple test that you can perform. I'm going to move my camera down a little bit here. It's such a simple test that you can perform to look at your soil type. So all soils are made up of 3 different types of components. It's different percentages of each. It's sand, silt, and clay. And when you do a mason jar test, you can get a really good idea of what percentage of each of those 3 things that you have in your soil. And what that can tell you is it's going to tell you the porosity of your soil, meaning how much air is in your soil, how well does it drain, is it too sandy, is it drain too fast, is it too clay where it's just going to hold on to moisture. And anytime you garden, you should do this. But with roses, it's especially important because, as you all know, roses don't like wet feet. So it's really important that I think this is one simple step. So we're going to do the mason jar test today. The other test we're going to do is called the ribbon test. So I also learned this in college, but the ribbon test is like a really quick way of discovering if your soil is mostly sand, mostly silt, or mostly clay. So we're going to do that together. And the only thing you really need for that is water. So we'll do the ribbon test, which will tell you about your workability. The next thing we're going to do is a drainage test. I'm not going to do that on this video because I'll take pictures and video of me doing that later. But basically what that is, and we'll talk about it, is digging a hole and filling with water to see like truly where you're going to plant your rose, how drainage is good. Okay, the other 4 tests we're going to do today together, you've probably seen these before, but these are soil test. You can buy these soil test kits at most retailers. Go to your garden center, they probably have these. If you don't have a good garden center that carries stuff like this, I bought these at my local IFA, which is a agriculture, it's like a Tractor Supply, but local. You can get them at Tractor Supply. Sometimes places like Walmart and Target and places like that have it. But today we're going to do tests. We're going to test our phosphorus, our nitrogen, our potassium, and our pH. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So those are the 7 soil tests that you can do at home. And so we're going to do them together. So you do need to buy this kit. It comes with these little capsules, and it comes with a little plunger. And the other things you're going to need is you're going to need a bowl, and you're going to need like a strainer. You're going to need some Dawn dish soap or some sort of dish soap. You're going to probably need some scissors and a scooper, and of course, your soil. So let's start with getting the soil to use on test. It's really important when you're picking soil out to do a soil test, especially in a perennial garden that is going to hopefully have roses and other perennials growing it for many, many, many years. You want to make sure you're taking your sample from deeper down in the soil. So what I did to get my soil for my soil test is I dug 4 inches off of the top and set it aside. And then I took a scoop of soil from underneath. You want to dig down 4 to 6 inches. You want to take it in that profile because that's where the top of your feeder roots are really going to be in most plants, right? Some plants go really deep down and they have a taproot. Some go very vertical, but 4 to 6 inches is where a lot of action happens. And so that's really, in my opinion, the best kind of level of soil to take from a soil test. So take 4 inches off the top, grab some scoops. So what I did is I just took an empty, I'm sure you guys all have empty pots sitting around, right? I took a sampling from 8 different spots in that garden because you don't want to just take it in one. You want to get a good sampling of the entire area, just in case the one shovelful that you take happens to have some crazy thing happening. So what I did is I took a shovelful 4 inches down and put them in this pot. And now I'll show you the next step. So I'm going to clear off my table here a little bit because this is going to get messy. So plan to get messy. It is soil after all, right? So I'm just going to move this stuff around here a little bit. Because what's really important is that you mix these soil samples together to get a really good mix of them. Let me move my little stuff all out of the way here. And everyone does this differently. I like to just grab a pair of gloves. Another thing that's really important is when you're doing soil testing is that you wear gloves or that you wash your hands. Because sometimes there can be residue on your hands that can affect your soil test. So I wash my hands and I'm going to use gloves. So I'm going to have 8 scoops that I took out of my garden in 8 different spots, 4 to 6 inches down. I'm going to dump this on my table. Okay, you can either put all this into a wheelbarrow and mix it up, but you just want to I think I can do this a lot better with my hands. Let me move this pot out of the way. We just want to mix this soil really, really good. Another thing you want to remember when you do soil testing is that you want your soil to be dry as possible when you take it. If you live in an area where your soil is moist a lot, like where it rains a lot, you're going to want to harvest it and lay it out and let it completely dry out. I live in a desert. My soil is always dry. So luckily my soil is dry enough and ready to go. So I'm just going to do a really good mixing with my fingers. Like I said, you can do this in a wheelbarrow with a shovel. And we're just going to make sure we get this all blended. I don't know if you can see here, but of course you're going to have all sorts of stuff in here, right? I have random sticks, I have rocks, I have old organic material, I have clods of soil, weed seeds. Oh my gosh, these stupid grasses that I get, they're everywhere. And an elm tree that is so low maintenance, but the thing just sheds its seeds everywhere. So you don't want to have any of that stuff in your soil test, right? You want to just test your soil. So once you get your soil mixed up really well and you feel like everything's been incorporated, the next thing you need to do is you need to sift it, because you want to get all of those big clods out. You want to get out weed seeds, organic material, rocks. You want to just get it down to its basic structure. And so how we're going to do that today, I just have a bowl here and I have a colander. Sometimes you can get a cheesecloth one that's really fine. Just pick one. This one's it's pretty basic. It has holes all around. It'll just go a little faster. And we're just going to sift through some of this soil and keep the sifted soil in this separate bin, and we'll use it from there. Okay. So, you can just use your hands, or I have my little cup here. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. My little scooper. Okay, and you can, if you want, you can kind of separate out some of the big stuff already, kind of get to some of the finer stuff, but just put it in your sifter, 1 cup at a time. Just use your hands and get it around and sift it out. And look, I got all of that big stuff out. Now we're left with nice, finer material. So I'm just gonna keep doing that till I get a nice bowl full. I'll do a couple cups at a time, just to help get it through all those holes. We're just going to sift it around a few times until you think it's been all sifted out. So see, all of those rocks and clods and sticks and stuff out. So we're just going to keep doing that because because I'm doing so many different soil tests, I'm going to need at least a few cups. Okay. And if you're planning on sending, there's some big rocks in there. Might as well just get those out now. If you're planning on doing a full soil panel with your local university, then you're going to need even more. You're going to need a few cups. Put a little bit more soil in it this time. See, it's harder. It's harder to sift when there's too much. So only do a couple cups at a time. It sifts so much faster if you just do it that way. So we'll just swirl it around and get much of that out. See, look at that. We've got all that out. Let's see if I have enough for what we're going to do today. I think I'm going to do one more round of soil. We're going to put that in here. Excuse me, seems like 2 cups is about right. So we're gonna sift that around, get as much of that big stuff out as we possibly can. Okay, all right, let's take a look at this final. Let me come up close here. This is about the texture that you want your soil to be. Okay, you can see it's like pretty fine. There's no rocks in it now. Most of the weed seeds are out. I see like a couple that are in there. Let me show you what we took out. Look at all these clods that we took out. So you don't want to test that. That's a total waste of time. The finer the soil you have that you're testing, the more accurate your results are going to be. So this is about the right texture. You want it to feel like you're at the beach. It's kind of like sandy, right? And it won't be this way if it's wet. So you got to make sure your soil is super, super dry to do this, okay? All right, so we sifted our soil, and now we have soil to do all of our different tests. So let me clean this off here a little bit. Let me get all this soil off. Like I said, you don't have to do it on a table like this. You can do it in a wheelbarrow or like a really big bucket. I kind of like to do it on the table because I think it's easier to work and look at. But you can do it any way you want, just as long as you get those multiple samples mixed really, really well. Okay, so let's do some soil testing. I'm excited to do this with you. Let's get this out of the way. All right, so all the soil testing that we're going to do today is going to take time to get results. So you're not going to see results on this video today, but what I'm going to do is show you how to do each one, and then I'll take some questions, and then I'm going to post the results on our group later, okay? But before we do that, I get to announce the winner of one of our Gypsy Roses. So for your participation in this series this summer, we are going to be giving away 2 Gypsy Roses for free for people who come and participate. So let me see. Nick sent me the names of who participated the last time. Okay, so here's our first winner of a free 1-gallon Gypsy Rose is Angie Starr. So congratulations, Angie Starr. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to announce the second one at the end of this. And then everyone who's participating this time, if you get on the next one, then we're going to announce 2 more. Keep coming. We hope this is an incentive. And hopefully you're going to learn something and enjoy it. But there's also a possibility of winning a free Gypsy Rose. So congratulations, Angie Starr. So let's dive into our soil test. And then at the end, I'll announce the second one. All right, let's go back down here. Hopefully you can see me okay. Okay. What should we do first? Let's do the mason jar first, because I always think the mason jar test is kind of fun. Okay. So I have step-by-step notes here because when I do this in front of people, I get nervous. So I hope you guys are okay with that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you start with a clean mason jar, right? You don't want there to be any sort of dirt or grossness to it. This one in particular is not looking at nutrients or pH. This one is just looking at your percentage of sand, silt, and clay. And it's honestly just kind of really interesting. So the first thing you want to do, you want to take a cup of soil from your sifted garden soil. So we're going to take a cup here. Okay, let's see. And we're going to put it in. This one happens to be a regular mouth jar, which is so silly. I should have grabbed a wide mouth jar. Why I ever have any regular mouth jars around still is beyond me. Okay, the other thing you want to do when you're using water, in this case, it doesn't matter if it's distilled. I'm using distilled water today. You can get distilled water at most grocery stores, Walmarts. But distilled water is really important for your pH and your nutrient testing because it's neutral, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to, let's see, fill the jar. I think I'm gonna need more soil than this. I'm gonna put a little bit more in because when I've done this before, it's been a lot more. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna take this water and we're gonna fill it all the way to the top, like 3/4 full. Okay. We also need, forgot, sorry, you need to add dish soap. What the dish soap does is it helps it separate faster. So this one says to do it for just a little bit of dish soap. So we're gonna add a little squirt of dish soap in there. Okay. And then, so you can see my jar here, we're gonna shake it. We're gonna shake it really, really well. Now you wanna shake it for like up to a minute. Okay. I might actually add a little more water in here because maybe I should have only done a cup of soil. Let's add some more water in here. Because the important part about the water, and the reason why this works, is the heavier stuff is going to sink the fastest, which is the largest particles. So the thing you're going to get to know really soon about your soil test is how much sand you have in it. So we're going to shake this really, really well. We got that dish soap in there. And then you let it sit. So we're just going to let this sit for a little while, okay? So with the mason jar test, and I'm going to post all of this information in a blog. So let's read here. So we said let it sit for 1 minute, and then you're going to see the sand will drop. Then you sit for 5 hours, and the next layer on top of that is silt, and then you leave it alone for a day or two, and then the final topmost layer is clay. Okay, so this is a kind of a long-term, it's like a couple day test, right? It's not quick. So you just want to get it set up, and then you just want to leave it alone. Okay, so we're just going to leave this one alone, and hopefully before the end, I can show you at least how much sand is in my soil. Now, knowing where I'm at, there's a lot of sand in our soil. So it's very possible that I'm going to have a high percentage of sand in my soil. We live in the Rocky Mountains. We have a very sandy, rocky soil base here. So my gut feeling tells me that I'm going to have a lot of sand. Okay. Okay, so that's one soil test that you can do at home. Let's do the next one. This one's kind of fun. This one you need your hands bare. This one's called a ribbon test. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take a little scoop of water and get it wet. Okay. You want to add water until it feels like putty. Okay, so you're going to need you're going to get dirty on this one. That's okay. You want to mix it in until it feels like putty. I put way too much water in, so we're going to add some more soil because we want it to feel like putty. You want it to feel like you're working with Play-Doh, right? There we go. This is feeling more like Play-Doh to me. I've got a little bit more soil because it is pretty muddy. You want to be able to work it. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't make bread a lot. It's not very good with any sort of recipes that need yeast. There we go. This looks really good. Let's show you this and kind of what that looks like. So you just you take your sifted mixed soil and you add water to it until it's like a putty, okay? So this is called the ribbon test. So you can kind of tell that, see how I can form a ball? And if you know you can form a ball like a piece of putty, then you know you're ready. So then what you do, I'm gonna do this close up, is you hold it between your thumb and your fingers. You start pushing on it to try and make a ribbon, okay? And you're gonna see how long of a ribbon you can make before it falls apart. See how it kind of elongates, see how it fell? The piece that falls is gonna tell you a lot. And so you remember what I thought I had a lot of sand in my soil? This confirms it. The more clay you have in your soil, the longer of a ribbon you can make. Imagine like Play-Doh, how you can like roll it out and make big, long pieces. The more clay you have in your soil, the longer your ribbon's gonna be. Okay, let's try it again. I like to do it a couple times. Gosh, it's been so long since I've done this. It's kind of fun to do it again. So let's make another one. Let's do it with my other hand that doesn't have so much mud on it and see. Okay, let's do it again. Let's do it up close. So you've got your ball of soil and you just push it and you try and make a ribbon with it. See how mine is already separating? That's because it's very sandy. I have see how it already fell apart? Now, if I were to do this with really heavy clay soil, you can get a pretty long ribbon. When I lived in upstate New York and I grew up in Pennsylvania, we had very clay soil there. So I could get like really long ribbons. And so what this soil test can tell you, just like this one can tell you, it's different ways of finding this. So you can already see how it's starting to settle. You see that? You see that division right there? Look how much. I have a feeling I'm going to have a ton of sand in my soil. And this kind of confirms it because I can't even make an inch long ribbon before it falls apart. See how it's already cutting? So basically, the ribbon test can help confirm and give you a really quick vision of like, okay, I've got really sandy soil. And I have a feeling this is going to tell me that. Okay, let's keep going on soil tests. And then we'll talk about what do you use this information for? How can you make your garden better with this information? Okay, so that's our ribbon test. Maybe I'll take a break and see if there's any questions before we dive into some of the other tests. Let's see. Lisa says, we are sandy loam here. We live in the Sierra foothills, so lots of decomposed granite. Interesting. It's so funny, even in like the same town, in the same area, you can have very, very different soil. So that's why it's important to, sorry, let me go back to that. That's why it's important to test exactly where you're going to plant. I've seen situations where people's soil is very different in different parts of their yard. Think especially closer to your house, because a lot of times after construction, they use terrible backfill. A lot of times your soil is really, really bad next to your home. And that's often where we're planting things, right? So you may have a garden out further away from your home whose soil profile and nutrient pH may be totally different than right up next to your house. In my case, with my Gypsy garden, it's going to be right up next to my house. And so I'm not too surprised that it's sandy. So I have some other kind of guesses in my mind of what soil tests are going to show me. So let's see what else. Trisha says she has rocks, clay, and loam. Okay. Sharon says hers will be a long ribbon. You must have a lot of clay, Sharon, where you live. Tori says you have heavy clay in upstate New York too. Yep. So it's funny, a lot of us either really sandy or really rocky, but what you want is a good blend to get like a nice loam soil. A nice sandy loam is really what you want. In the blog that I'm going to write, there's something called a triangle. You've probably seen it before, maybe you haven't, but it's a soil triangle. And each point is sand, loam, and clay. And I'm sorry, sand, silt, and clay. And when you put those together at some percentage, you're somewhere in there. It tells you if you have a sandy loam or if you're heavy clay. And that can tell you a lot about what kind of amendments you need to have to put into your soil. Let's see if there's any other. Sharon says digging holes are very different depending on where we dig. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's other parts of my yard where I put a shovel in, it's like hitting solid rock all the time. Like there's hardly any sort of soil around it. So very rocky. But when I lived in upstate New York, I would put a shovel in, it was like you could hear it like slop out because there was so much clay. So super important to understand what your soil is like and how it's going to drain and how you can improve it before you spend all the money, energy, and time planting something that you want to enjoy for years. You really have one shot. It is harder to develop your soil after you plant than before you plant. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it harder? Absolutely. So, one of the best things you can do here is just do some simple tests. So let's move on to some other ones. Okay. Let's take a look at this. See, it's settling even more now. See how it's that ribbon at the top. Look how much, I think I'm going to have tons of sand. Some of you may do that test and not have anything settle for 2 days because it's so heavy clay. Just kind of an interesting thing. Okay. the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do 4 tests with these at-home kit, with this at-home kit. Let me get all my stuff ready here. This is the point that distilled water is not only important, it's vital. So it's really important that you use distilled water here. And just for ease, I'm going to use a very clean, freshly cleaned jar to pour some distilled water in so I can use a little water syringe to grab some water from it. Okay. So I'm going to just make sure whatever you're putting in is super clean. Okay. So, I've done these tests before. It's been a long time. Let's take a look at each one. So the way that you do a pH test is different than the way you do nutrient tests. They're a little bit different. So what these are going to tell you, if you look on the side, there's a scale. So pH is a measurement of how acid or alkaline your soil is. And the reason why that's important is because it's directly related to nutrient availability. And as we know in roses are heavy feeders. And if your pH is off, whether you're high or low, that means you're probably going to have to supplement certain nutrients. So a really good understanding of where you're planting, what your pH is, can help you with your feeding program. Okay, so that's the pH test. So you can see that there's different colors. So the very bottom is very acidic. So 4.5 is very low. And then 7.5 is very, very alkaline. Okay. The cool thing about this is it will change color, and that little chart here will help you compare to see where your pH is. Now, here in Utah, we naturally have very alkaline soils. So my guess is I'm going to be somewhere in this dark green. We're very alkaline here. And roses tend to like it between 6.5 and 7. 7 is considered neutral. 6.5 is slightly acidic. Every plant is a little different. Some of you folks out east can do things that love acidity, like blueberries and azaleas and rhododendrons and pieris. And some people out west can grow things that like it really alkaline, like alfalfa and snapdragons and things like that. Okay, so we're going to do a pH test, which is probably one of the easiest ones of the kit. The other ones we're going to do is N, P, and K. Okay, so N is nitrogen. That's the first number on your fertilizer bag. And so what this test is going to give us a look at keeps it pretty generic. These tests are not meant to give you like a super detailed nutrient panel. These tests are designed to give you just a basic understanding of, like, do you have enough nitrogen in your soil, or are you really low, or are you really high? It can give you some general ideas of what to do. So basically, it's also a color chart. So the lighter it is, it's depleted. And the darker it is means there's a surplus of nitrogen in your soil. So let's take a look at that. I have a feeling, I'm going to guess in my soils where this is at is probably going to be very depleted. It's a rough area. So very sandy, very little organic material. And so that's just my guess, but we're going to find out for sure. Next thing we're going to do is the P test. This is the, not P test. Well, it's a test for your phosphorus. Phosphorus is really important in roses, right? Phosphorus is, remember how I taught you up, down, all around? So nitrogen is up. Nitrogen is responsible mostly for the general growth of your plant. Roses use a lot of nitrogen in the spring when they're coming out of dormancy, when they're starting to get a lot of foliage growth. It's mostly responsible for foliage growth. Phosphorus, you can think of, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of both. It's for blooming and for rooting. Isn't that interesting that the middle number on a fertilizer bag affects blooming and rooting? And I think there's a really important lesson there for you to understand. The healthier your roots are, the more blooms you're going to get. They are directly related. And that's why phosphorus, the thing it really does is support your roots, and it will give you more blooms. So phosphorus is a really important one. Now, phosphorus in some parts of the country, sometimes you can't find fertilizers with phosphorus in them because a lot of a lot soils have enough phosphorus in them, and it's also highly leachable. So it can go through the soil and leach into groundwater really, really easily. So, it's so easy to buy those blooming and rooting fertilizers that have like 45 in the middle, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have the biggest, best blooms ever. But you have to keep in mind that the stuff moves through the soil really, really fast. And so it's better to find out what you actually need, because most phosphorus fertilizers applied are a complete waste because they leach out so fast. The plant can't use it. It's also really bad for our groundwater. So it's really good to get a true understanding of the phosphorus in your soil so that you don't just think, oh, this plant tag or this fertilizer tag says blooming and rooting, so that means I'll have more blooms. You may not need more phosphorus. You might need more nitrogen. So, okay. And the last test we're going to do today is, oh wait, that's N, sorry. There it is, K. So K is the chemical symbol for potassium. So you think up, down, all around. So nitrogen up, phosphorus down. Potassium is an all-around nutrient. It's in my case, in my mind, one of the most important ones that gets overlooked quite a bit. Because a lot of times you think of, oh, I need more nitrogen. I need more nitrogen. I need more growth. I need more general growth. And people think phosphorus. I need lots of phosphorus. I need tons and tons of blooms. But if you had all of that and you didn't have this, you'd be in trouble. Potassium is really important in the health and strength of your plant. So having good potassium in your soil, especially in roses, is going to make them more resilient to disease, to pest infestations. It's going to make stronger roots. It can make them more winter hardy. So it's a really important nutrient to keep track of. And it's often, I think, the most overlooked and surpassed by nitrogen and phosphorus. So let's do these 4 together. Now, you're not going to see results today because, once again, these ones take a little bit longer to do. But I'm going to show you how to do them. We're going to do them together. I'm just going to do this step by step. So, like I said, I want to make sure I do this right. Let's do the pH one first. Okay. So we are going to take this little cap off. Luckily, we still have our bin of nicely mixed and nice fine soil. We are going to fill the test chamber. So you're going to see on these things, there's kind of 2 areas in here. There's a test chamber, and then there's this bigger chamber. And there's this little line that says fill with soil. You hardly need any soil. So that's why it's even more important that you get a good mix and blend of your soil, because you're testing like this much of your soil, okay? And then we'll fill the rest with water. So let's do that together. Okay, so I'll just use my fingers here. So we are going to put the soil in here. You don't really need that much. It's like probably half of a teaspoon. Okay, we're gonna see and let that settle a little. Okay, and then you're gonna see they come with these little capsules. I'm gonna come up closer here so we can do it together. So you see I filled up the soil to the soil line. Next, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put this down so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, you get these little capsules like this that come with it. The cool thing about these soil tests is you can use them over and over again. One capsule does one test. So we're going to take so it's just like a pill capsule. You can either like pull it apart or you can cut the tip off. So I'm going to try and pull it apart. Sometimes they're hard to get. Yeah, see, sometimes they're just really hard to get apart. So I'm going to settle the powder and I'm going to just cut this tip off of this little capsule here. Ooh, there we go. Okay. Try not to touch things as much with your fingers, the powder. Oh, I just dumped the capsule top in there. That's lovely. Okay. Hey, you guys get to see real life stuff, right? I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and try and get that capsule top out of there. Okay. So I emptied that powder. Oh, let's see. Emptied the powder on top of that. Okay. Let's see. Now, I'm going to take my little syringe here and I'm going to grab some distilled water and we're going to fill it up to that line. And it's so nice that they include this because it really is not that much water that you need. And it just helps it be really accurate. So we're going to fill up to that line. Okay, there we go. We're going to put this back on the lid. Make sure it's really, really tight. Okay. You know what's interesting? Look, it's already kind of darker green. So we're going to shake this really, really well. Okay, you want to shake it for a good minute or so. I might not do it as long as that on here just because I don't want to watch me shake stuff for a while. And maybe I can shake this while we talk about the other tests that we're going to do. So the pH test is a little bit easier than the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium test. So we're just going to shake this really, really well. And maybe while I'm shaking this, let's take a look at our mason jar, see how it's doing. Look, even with all my careful filtering, there's still a whole bunch of organic material in there. But look how much soil is at the bottom. It's like I live at the beach. I wish I lived at the beach. I'm a landlocked state here in Utah. Every time I go to California, I think, man, you guys are so lucky. Okay, so we're going to call that good. So see, it's all nice and mixed. And we're just going to let it sit. We're going to let it sit for like a minute. Okay. All right, let's do our other tests here. Let's do nitrogen first. So the nitrogen test, let me just get to my notes here, make sure I do it right. Okay. Okay, it says mix your soil in a clean jar. Mix 1 part soil with 5 parts water. Shake it vigorously for 1 minute. Let it settle until clear. Okay, so what we need to do with this one, we're going to, these ones take a little longer, like I said. That's right. So what you want to do is you want to get, and we can use our mason jar again, our nice clean mason jar. And you want to mix some of your sifted soil and mixed soil. You want to do 1 part soil to 5 parts water. The nice thing about using a mason jar is you have these little slashes on the side. You know, you really don't need a lot to fill these. So I think if we put 1 part soil in here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts water in there, that'll be perfect. So let's do that. I'm just going to grab soil and get it to about that first dash on my mason jar here. Okay, good. And then I'm going to take my distilled water. It's really important to use distilled water in this one. And I'm going to do it. You want 5 parts. So I'm going to do it up to, I have 1, 2 to this part right here. So let's mix that up. See if I got enough in. Just a teeny bit more. Okay. Of course, I don't have a wide mouth jar lid out here. Oh boy. Dang it. Because yeah, this one's a regular mouth. Can you give me 1 minute? I'm going to go get a jar cap, okay? Hold on. You're going to still hear me as I walk through my house. Like I said, why do we even use regular jar mounts anymore? Luckily, I do a lot of canning. It's been nice, so. Wow. Perfect. Okay, I'm on my way back. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I had everything I needed. Okay, so got my cap, wide mouth cap. I'm gonna screw that on. Now we're gonna shake this really good. Because what you're doing, how these tests work, how nutrient tests work, is we're actually just creating the liquid that we're gonna test. So you're taking your soil, you're mixing it with distilled water, and then basically we're gonna test that water. So you're basically removing all of the nutrients around that soil area. We're going to test the soil. So you want to shake this really, really good. So see, as a gardener, you need to have mason jars, even if you don't vegetable garden. They're so useful in so many ways. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. All right, so let's go back to what we were doing before, and let's read our instructions a little bit. So once we have it in there, we need to let it sit for 10 minutes. And then we're going to fill all of our chambers of our nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And then we're going to add that capsule. So we're going to give that 10 minutes to sit, and then I'll do that together. So in the meantime, I thought maybe what we do is to take some time to take some questions. Oh, look, hey, look, you can already see my pH test. If you can see that, look how dark green that is. That is very dark green. I have very, very alkaline soil here. So, I would say that the color scale is not exact, but, it just is meant to give you like, is it orange, yellow, muddy, or green, or dark green? Mine is very dark green. So I have a very alkaline soil here. We're going to keep letting it sit there. Let's take a look back at our sand and silt clay percentages. It keeps getting, that band keeps getting wider. So it'll be kind of cool to keep watching that go. Okay, let's take a look if there's any questions. And then we'll put the capsules in our nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and then I'll announce the winner of our Gypsy Rose. Let's see. Trisha asked, I need a lavender Gypsy. Will there be one? I hope so someday. Nothing in the works right now. Sorry about that. Let's see. Are you selling soil too? We're not yet, but we're working on it. So stay tuned. I'm curious, would you guys buy soil online? I'm just curious. Where do we get the home tests? Donna, great question. So I got these tests at, I bought them at my local IFA, which is Intermountain Farmers Association. It's kind of like an Agway or a Tractor Supply. You can buy them at independent garden centers. A really good independent garden centers will have soil tests like this. And the nice thing is they come with multiple capsules, so you can use it over and over and over again. Once you have one, you can keep testing different parts of your soil. And look, that green just keeps getting darker. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Lisa says, I think it would depend on shipping costs. Yeah, exactly. Always testing the water. Okay, all right. You know what? Just for the sake of time, I think I'm gonna put the, you can see how it's already settling out. So the idea is what you wanna do is you wanna get just the liquid to do the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium tests. So maybe we'll give it just another minute. And maybe what we'll do is we'll get our capsules ready. So the capsules are color coded along with the color, and make sure that this water syringe doesn't touch anything. So you can see there's purple, orange, and blue. It's really important, obviously. I love color coding, don't you? It makes things so much easier. You want to make sure you put the right color capsule in the right bin. So why don't we do some prep work while we wait for that mixture. So I'm going to do the phosphorus one first. The phosphorus one is blue. Interesting thing about this is, once again, there's not a lot of space in the chambers. You only need to put it in this little one on the side, okay? So we're going to take this capsule and let's try, let me put it down so you can see what I'm doing here. Let's try and gently work that apart. Yeah, see, I can never get these apart. So let's tap it a little bit. I'm going to cut the tip off and hopefully not have it fall into there. There we go. Problem is sometimes this plastic is so brittle. You gotta be careful not to get little pieces in there. Okay, so I'm gonna just pour one of those capsules in there in the test chamber. And I'm gonna put the lid back on. We're just gonna get this ready to go. We'll give that water a little bit longer to kind of settle. Let's do our K is our potassium next. So it's orange. Let's take an orange capsule. It's funny, these soil tests, these little kits, I think this was like, I don't know, $19 or something. This $19 test can save you hundreds of dollars in the future. It is totally worth the time and the effort. Okay, let's cut the top of this one off. Okay, we'll pour orange capsule into that test chamber. Okay, we'll put that lid back on. And the final one we're going to do is nitrogen. So let's do nitrogen. Let's grab one of the nitrogen capsules. I had an old silly little test kit that I had for years and like years. I ended up buying a new one for this because I'm not sure how long these capsules last. I'm sure they last a long time, but you know, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get a fresh one. Okay, so I'm gonna cut that open a little. Then we're gonna pour that into that chamber. Okay, I'm gonna put that lid back on. Okay, I don't know if it's been a full 10 minutes yet, but just for the sake of this video, I'll wait a little longer and I'll do it again. I just want to show you how to do it. So let's come over to our distilled water and get our little syringe. Now I used my jar. So this is just going to take me just a little bit longer. I just gotta tilt down my distilled jar here. Pull some up. We're gonna do phosphorus first. Take that lid off. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we don't use the phosphorus. This, silly me. We use this. This is why I need notes. I get nervous in front of people. Okay. Okay, so let's bring this up closer. So we're gonna do it together. Okay, so normally you would wait about 10 minutes. But you can see how like there's a bunch of settling. There's a bunch of stuff that floated on the top. I want to try and get stuff from in here. Okay, let's point this down. So we're gonna do this one first. So I'm gonna take my little syringe here. I'm gonna squeeze it. I'm gonna put it down through all that and try and pull from the middle here. And we're gonna fill this up. Another really good reason why you need to take a good sampling from lots of different areas. You fill to the line. Okay, we're all full. Okay, I'll put this on. Okay, we're gonna wanna shake this too. Shake, shake, shake. Because we wanna get that powder that we put in there mixed with that water really well. Okay, which is good. So we're just gonna shake this for a little bit. Make sure you get really, really good mixture in there. Hey, I think that's pretty well shaken. So this will take about 10 minutes to get results. So we're probably not going to see the results on here, but maybe we'll get to start seeing it. So there we go. That's all mixed, ready to test my phosphorus. Okay, let's put that back with my pH here. The pH test. Oh yeah, I'm a 7.5 at least. Hey, let's do our potassium next. So we're gonna open that. Take our little syringe. We're gonna squeeze it and then go down through kind of the stuff that's floating. We're gonna get just the water. We're gonna fill up that chamber. And we're gonna fill it up to that fill line, which is right about there. I think the fill line is just there so that you have room to shake it. Make sure it gets mixed well. If you put too much in, then it won't be able to shake very well. So we're gonna shake this one really good. Make sure all that powder is dissolved in that. Interesting. The colorations on the potassium are like different shades of like goldish orange. So interesting. I'm gonna shake that really, really good. I'm gonna make sure it's really, really well mixed so you get a good reading. Okay, we're gonna set that down. You can already see that it's kind of like orangish, goldish. I don't know if you can tell that, but it is. All right, one last one. Okay, this is our nitrogen test. Like I said, my guess is that I'm gonna be very low here, but We're gonna find out for sure. Where did I put my syringe? Where did it go? You guys are seeing real life me. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind. There it is. Oh, it's on the ground. Dang it. Well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna rinse this off with some distilled water. I don't want it touching the ground and getting. So I'm just gonna rinse this off with some distilled water really quick. There we go. Real life gardening. It's messy, but it's fun. I kind of like doing this kind of stuff because it's like I feel like a little bit get to feel kind of like a scientist. Get to discover the secrets of your garden. Okay, so I've got that in my nitrogen. We're going to close that up. We're going to shake that really, really good too. This one's interesting because it's going to be like different shades of purple. Will tell us our nitrogen. I think that's really well mixed in. I think that's good. So we're going to let that sit for a little bit. Okay. All right. So far, we've done the mason jar test. We've done the ribbon test. We've done a pH test, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium test. The other test that I always suggest you do, even if you do nothing else, you should do this one. And you know what? Maybe I can move my computer over there. Do you guys have a minute? Do you want to do fill a hole with water test? You guys want to see if we can do that together while we wait for our reports? Let's see if I can make this happen. Okay. Let's see. Come along with me. You're going to get to see what to be. Oh, I forgot my shovel. Okay, hang on. I'm going to show you where I'm going to be planting this garden. Okay. So you see, this is my house. This is my turret. Isn't that kind of cool? It's a really cool house. Although there's lots of work that needs to be done. So this is the flower bed where we're going to be planting my gypsy garden. And next week we're going to talk about layout and how to prep, how to remove sod. I'm actually going to change like the edging of where I'm going to be. I'm going to be doing a pathway through here because any good cut flower garden, you want to be able to walk through, right? This isn't like something where it's so deep you can't reach into something. You want to make sure if you're planting a gypsy garden or a cut flower garden that you have pathways through so that you can actually get to where you want to be. So I'm going to do a really beautiful walkway on the outside, and then I'm going to do stepping stones down the middle. We're going to talk more about that next week, like how to design, things to consider, and all of that. So I'm going to go grab my shovel really quick, and then we'll fill a hole. I'm going to show you the percolation test. So let me just grab my shovel, which is up here on the porch. Even if you do nothing else, this is such a simple thing you can do. Every gardener has a shovel and water, right? If you don't want to bother with the nitrogen test or the pH tests, I highly recommend that you do. But this is at least something you should do, especially for roses. It's so, so important that you do this because roses cannot tolerate wet feet. They just can't. So what you do right where you're going to plant your rose, exactly where you're going to plant it, because even the hole from over there to over there could be drastically different drainage for different reasons, right? So the thing is, let's dig a hole like we were planting an estate rose. Okay. And with holes for roses, you always go twice as wide as the pot and the same or deeper depth than it is in the pot. Roses are one of those plants that you can plant deeper. It's okay to plant deeper. Not all plants can handle that. If you plant a strawberry or a peony too deep, it's dead. Roses, they can handle it. In fact, it's better, especially if you live in a really cold climate. I'm in a zone 6 here. So let's see, they're gonna see me sweat. Luckily the clouds are out, so it's not super hot. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this series so early in the day, because it gets wicked hot here during the day in Utah. And right where I'm putting this garden is hot. It is hot here. Okay, so I'm gonna get it. Before you do your soil percolation test, you wanna make sure you get as deep as it's gonna be, because your soil structure is gonna change the deeper you go. So it's important that you test the very bottom of where those roots are gonna be. This isn't just like sprinkle some water on top and see if it drains. I certainly hope the top 4 inches of your soil drains, or you're in trouble, or you're living in a pond. What really matters is how deep that is. So just for the sake of this video, so you don't have to hear me huff and puff, that's about as deep. Nah, that's not deep enough. We're gonna pretend that this is deep enough. So you dig it as deep as you need it. It's such a simple test, and I recommend everyone do this. Oops. My camera fell. Hope you guys hope I'm not making you too dizzy. Such a simple thing you can do. And we're just gonna fill it with water. You fill it all the way up with water. We're gonna let that fill for a minute. A really good draining hole will be completely gone in less than 30 minutes. That's what you want it to be for roses, especially. If it takes more than 2 hours, you have a problem. So 30 minutes is kind of what I consider the benchmark of doing this test. So I don't know if you can see, probably can't, but this is kind of what I suspected would happen, because I have such sandy soil, is draining faster than it's filling. So if your soil, let's see if I can bring you a little closer. And I'll do some better videos on this where I'm not jumping around. Finally got a good camera. But if you can see that. I couldn't even get it all the way full because it was draining so fast. So that's another test. That's the 7th test that you can do. Super easy, super important. Every single time you plant a rose, because every single part of your garden is going to be different. And super important to make sure that at least it drains right. Sorry about that. The most important part of understanding your soil, especially with roses, is making sure it drains well. So I know that my soil drains really well. So just make sure you do that. So let's look at some of our results, and I'll take some questions. All right. Let's see what we got here. We're gonna let these sit for a little bit longer. Let's look at see how this is coming. It's still settling a little bit, as you can see. This mason jar test is primarily going to tell you, with this amount of soil, how wide the ribbons are going to tell you in general, your percentage of sand, silt, and clay. Now, if you do a soil test through like an extension office, they're going to tell you really specifically, right? This gives you like a real general picture and look at what that's going to be. But it needs to sit for a full 2 days, 48 hours, because that's how long the clay is going to take, okay, to separate out. I have a feeling I'm not going to have much clay in mine. So, okay, so we did the mason jar test. We did the ribbon test. Okay. We did a full soil test kit panel. Um, let's look at pH one last time together. Look how dark green that is. I'm very alkaline. Let's take a look at what's the next one we did. I think we did phosphorus first. Oh, interesting. Look how clear that is. You see how like there's not a lot of blue? So most likely I'm very depleted in phosphorus there. Doesn't surprise me actually. So that's good for me to know. If I'm gonna want beautiful blooms and strong roots, I'm gonna have to make sure I have phosphorus. But we'll give it the full time. And then my potassium, oh, interesting. It's very dark so far. It's a very dark orange. So I might have tons of potassium in my soil. Okay. And then my nitrogen test, I would say I'm somewhere in the middle so far, a little bit on the lower end. But we'll give it its full 10 minutes to sit. And so now that I have these things, and I know that my hole that I dug is draining fast, I have no doubt it's going to be completely empty in a half hour. Information, right? What do you do with it? So there's a couple things. Most of the time the answer when you have an extreme of one type of soil over another, like mine's going to be very sandy, right? We learned that through the mason jar test and through the ribbon test. I need to add organic material in this big time. If you have a lot of clay, you're going to do something a little bit different, but most of the time adding organic material is going to solve your problem. Sometimes when it's really heavy clay, you're going to want to add things like maybe some sand or green sand, but usually compost and organic material over time and building that soil structure is going to help. So what this mainly tells me is I know that I got sandy soil that's really alkaline. I am depleted in nitrogen and phosphorus, but looks like I have a lot of potassium. So what that means for me is I'm going to add organic material. I'm going to make sure I'm adding things that are going to break down and make sure and give me natural sources of nitrogen and phosphorus. So we're going to talk about that next time. We're going to talk about what we actually do. I'm going to actually send some of my sifted soil. What you do is every single state has an extension office. And they're going to have different instructions. For Utah State, they have a form I'll fill out, and I'll send them a baggie of this soil. And then what I'll get in return, we'll share together and see if it matches this kind of home test. But the nice thing about having an extension office do it is you're going to get super detailed information and exactly what to do. So if you're depleted in nitrogen by this much, they'll say add so many pounds of this type of fertilizer per this many square feet. So that's the nice thing about it is when you do that sort of level, then you're going to get exact instructions. When you do it at home yourself, it just gives you a general idea, right? So what I'm going to do, if I were not to do a soil test through an extension agency, I'm already thinking like, okay, I'm going to get some mushroom compost. I'm going to probably get some natural organic sources of nitrogen and phosphorus and make sure to be careful not to do too much potassium. Well, I'm going to wait for these to settle and get done and finish for sure. But that gives me a general idea, right? And the nice thing about these kits is after you do some corrections, you can come back and test it again to see if it worked. So, testing your soil is it's an ongoing process as you begin to correct what's wrong with your soil and to make it better and a better environment for microbes to thrive in, better environment for roots to grow in, better nutrient availability, all of those things. My pH test says I'm very high. So, another thing that can help neutralize soil when it's really high, there's different things. If you're low, there's something you do. If you're high, there's something you do. So everyone is a little bit different. and how that affects your soil. So I'm going to be writing a blog about this, these step-by-step instructions, and then like what to do if it's this or that. I do highly recommend though, especially if you're going to invest a lot of money in a specific area of your yard, to spend a little bit of money. Most of the time, I think mine's $10, to have an extension agent give you a full soil panel, to just because it'll identify all sorts of other things, right? It's going to look at micronutrients too, and micronutrients are just as important to healthy gardens as macronutrients. So, I might realize that, hey, I'm really low in magnesium, or I'm really high in zinc, and it will tell me exactly what to do. There's no thinking about it. So, anyway, you could do these 7 simple soil tests at home, pretty cheap. You can do it for free if you don't want to do these tests, but these tests cost about $19 to buy one. You can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 tests you could do, so you can run 10 tests. So that's $2 a test, to give you that view. So, all right. Let's see if there's any questions here. Joe Wong asks, I'm going to stand up and there we go. Joe Wong asks, will aged chicken manure work? Yeah, it's really important with any sort of animal byproduct manures that it's really, really well rotted. Because if it's not, it can be really high in nitrogen and can actually burn your plants. So I know lots of people that like chicken manure. So as well rotted, then that can be one way to add organic material and natural nutrients into your soil. Donna said, thank you for doing this live. I've never done this. Now I know how to do it, and it isn't too hard. Yeah, it's not hard at all. Like, I sometimes, like, for me, I need step-by-step instructions. Like, it's been years since I've done a lot of these things, and I was like, oh, I remember how to do it. And then suddenly I was like, oh wait, I just want to remember the right steps. So I'll write a blog about it, but you can also just follow instructions and Google it online. It's really, really easy to do. And it's going to just, instead of just not knowing anything, I now know I have sandy soil that's alkaline, that's depleted in nitrogen and phosphorus. And that's way more than I knew before. And that took me, what? An hour. So you guys can do it too. I know you can. Miley asked, Heidi, how big of a pot did you say Gypsy needed in the last live? Also, can we plant 2 plants in the same pot since they are small? Yeah, so Miley, great question. Let's grab a Gypsy rose here. And then don't leave, because I'm going to be announcing our next winner. Okay, so you can see the plants that we have are 1 gallon. This is the size plants that we have. They're $39. It's a great price. This is a perfect rose complement to any cutting garden, any rose garden that you have, because it's such great filler. So at maximum, Miley, this is going to get like 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide. So just keep that in mind as you're choosing a pot. Now, if it was me putting it in a pot, maybe what we could do is we could have a pot planting day with Gypsy. That'd be kind of fun. I would do one at least. Let's see what like 2 would look like. It really depends on like how long you want to keep it in the pot. If this is a permanent situation, you're going to want a bigger pot. If it's something you're going to do for now until you plant it in the ground later, it could be smaller. 2 of these in a pot, you're going to want a pretty big pot. You're going to want a 24-inch pot across the top. And the deeper that you go, the better. Just there's more soil profile, and you can get those roots to expand. So just keep in mind, the smaller the pot, more you're going to have to water it. So just keep that in mind. Helena says, Ashley says, I'd love Gypsy in a white color. Oh, I know there's lots of breeding going on with these types of roses, so I hope so too. Tori says, super helpful live. Definitely going to try the mason jar test. Listen, Tori, let us know how it works out. I would love to see you guys post your pictures. Everyone should try a mason jar test and show us. It'd be so fascinating to see, like, around the country, like what different type of soils we're all dealing with. Joe Wong asks, how often should we test our soil? Beginning of the season. So Joe Wong, like this level of soil testing, I would tell you want to do it for sure when you're planting a new flower bed, especially a perennial bed. But it absolutely wouldn't hurt to do it every year to see at least, especially in the spring before you start applying mulches and compost and fertilizers. Like, make sure you see what you have first. You know, all of the work that you're going to do to improve your soil structure might be great, and then you won't need to do much. So at least once a year in the spring is my suggestion to you. Carmen says, I just got my Japanese potted roses. Do I have to transfer them to a bigger pot right away, or can I wait till next year? You know, Carmen, we always suggest the pots that we send roses in, you know, like our number one pots come this size. They're not meant to be in this pot for very long. They're going to get root bound really fast. And it's going to be wicked hard to keep them watered. So plant these in where you're going to put it as soon as possible. In fact, our warranty states that we want you planting it in its spot within 48 hours because it's so important. These are so easy to dry out when the soil profile is so small, especially like here in Utah. Like I have to come out and water these at least once a day, if not twice a day, because it's so windy and dry here. So I always suggest get it out of that pot, get into a place where it can stretch its wings, its roots, and it can grow better. So I always recommend get it out of the pots in the ground or in a decorative container as quickly as you can. Okay, any other questions? Let's see, I can kind of scroll up a little, but then I'll let you guys go and I'll announce. Emily, this is a great question, Emily. You asked, I have several raised beds and a few others in the ground areas that probably all have different soil. Should I send samples for all of them? Absolutely, yeah. You probably know your piece of property well enough to know that like, wow, things grow really well over here and they really don't grow well over here. So absolutely, you can have different situations in different parts of your yard. And so you can keep them separate. And so that way you'll know like, okay, my backyard flower bed, this is the soil sample, my front flower bed, my side, you know, wherever it is. So yeah, absolutely. Because you want to understand what's happening as close to where those plants are going to be growing as possible, right? So that's why it's so important that you take a sampling even within the garden itself to try and get an average. So like my soil here by this turret is way different than my soil in my vegetable garden. Completely different soil. It's crazy. Still sandy, but just its ability to grow things really well. There's just definitely something weird going on with this. And I have a feeling that it might be because my pH is so high, which is probably due to the fact that it's up against that sandstone. So that's kind of my theories, but okay, all right. Well, I'm going to announce our final winner. I'm going to let you guys go. Okay, let's see. Okay, our second winner of our Gypsy Rose that we're so excited about is Samantha Asmus. I hope I said your name right. So Samantha, congratulations. You're going to get a free Gypsy Rose sent to your house. So I hope you all try Gypsy Rose. They're $39 plus you get to use coupon codes on that. It's such a great deal to try something new and fresh and put several in your garden. So you have lots of these to cut to put in your bouquets. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Tune in next week at the same time. So the next week, we're going to talk about layout, how to lay out a new bed, how to remove sod, how to prep, and some other things. In my particular bed, we're going to talk a lot about weed preventions. I have specific weeds in that bed that are just terrible. They keep coming back. And so I'm going to show you how to identify those weeds, what to do about that, how you can kind of stop it and nip that in the bud too. So check in next week. And all summer long, Friday at 10 a.m., we're going to talk about, and you're going to walk along this journey with me of planting a cut flower garden, a gypsy garden, from start to finish. All right. Well, you guys have a great weekend. And I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. And we had really super fun camping. It was a great weekend. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.